Welcome, everybody. It's Sunday, and it's time for The Expendable Show with your host, The Expendable. That's me. If you like the show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. I see I've been getting more and more followers, so that makes me happy. We've got quite a bit to cover. Some kind of like mid-major events have gone on. But let's get with our statistics first. So Doge, 160 billion, which comes out to $993.79 per taxpayer. The debt clock shows that he saved $365 billion. That's $1 billion a day that he saves us, which translates into $3,252 per taxpayer. So good job, Elon Musk. Or is that how much you've stolen from us, according to the liberals? Saving money, stealing, apparently. So the Dow Jones closed at 40,114 on Friday. So, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, it's not 45,000 like what the liberals say it has to be at. But under the reset of the economy, that is right around where it should be. Like I said, I think the good days are coming. It'll be about 42,000, I predict. Canadian Prime Minister. So this race is getting closer and closer every week. Every time I check these polls, it gets closer and closer. So Carney's got 42.5%, and Pierre has 38.7%. So that's going to get closer and closer, I think, as we get to the election. So I'm excited to see how that's going to turn. I really think that the conservatives have a chance. I think Pierre's got a chance to be the prime minister. Democrat approval ratings. So like I said, I'm pretty sure they're not even checking. They're not even polling this anymore because they don't want to see it go below 21%. However, I did a little digging. There is a poll out there that shows 74% of Democrats say the party should work with Republicans. 23% want a more combative role against Trump. So when we look and we see Bernie and AOC and we see Hakeem Jeffries and we see Eric Swalwell and all these other turds that are the extreme Democrats, when they're doing these things, they're only speaking for 23% of their voters. So in reality, 74% are not liking this. So that tells me that when we go into midterms, their candidates, these ones David Hogg wants to replace some of the old heads with, are not going to do well because they're too extreme. And I think that's why they reeled Hogg back in, was because they know these statistics exist. And they know this isn't going to work out according to what they think. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, well, that's telling. And I need to, keep that in mind as I watch liberal, I call it the liberal propaganda. That doesn't speak on behalf of all Democrats. That there's a lot that don't want this. Actually, a heavy majority. It's a 70-20 issue. So. How you like that? And you guys are on the losing side, AOC. Trump's approval rating has fallen a little bit this week. So he's at 45.8 according to Real Clear Politics. Like I said, I like to use Real Clear Politics for the presidential approval ratings simply because it takes all the polls and averages them, which I think gives you a better idea of what it really is. So let's look at our average prices of stuff. Eggs, $4.15 during Biden today. I looked, they're at $3.15 a dozen. So that's $1 down. Trump isn't doing anything. These liberals can't read. That's the problem. That's why our test scores in all our public schools are so bad, because they're not teaching, these liberals aren't teaching other liberals how to read. Gas prices, 2024 average was $3.30. This week, $3.15 is the average according to AAA. Which go look at AAA's site. They actually do a really, really good job of tracking the gas prices. I enjoy looking at their site. They should pay me to say that. AAA. I need an endorsement. I need a sponsorship from AAA. Brought to you by AAA. Here in Locust Grove this morning in Georgia, which is about 30 miles south of Atlanta, I think we're still considered Metro Atlanta. But the gas this morning was 240, 248, 247 or something like that. So we're on the way low end, which is nice. I get cheap gas all the time. So mortgage rates, still Jerome Powell's not budging. He needs to get off his ass and do something. He can't keep the mortgage. He can't keep the rates this high for much longer. He's going to have to do something. Trump did his part. Jerome Powell's got to do his part at the Fed. So let's talk about Russia, Ukraine. That's going to be a big topic because a lot's happened. It also took up some time at the Pope's funeral the other day. So here's kind of a brief summary of what's happened. So Russia bombed Kiev. 12 people were killed. It was kind of nasty. They brought some of their heavy hitters. Zelensky was in South Africa doing whoever the fuck knows what he was doing in South Africa. He's always everywhere except in Ukraine anymore. But he was in South Africa. He had to hurry up and get back because his countrymen were getting killed. President Trump, he made it a public expression, which we're not used to seeing him when it comes to Russia. But he made a truth on Truth Social that said Vladimir stop in response to the bombings, which, I mean, Trump should be saying that, stop bombing people. We're trying to stop all of this, which is weird because you get, the Russian foreign minister is always saying, oh yeah, these peace talks are heading in the right direction. But then we've got Russia always bombing stuff. So it does make me doubt Russia a little bit. And as far as but some of it makes me think that Russia is just laying the hammer down to force Ukraine to submit. So I think that's a lot of what's going on as well. Is that right? No, but I think that's what's happening. I think Putin's losing patience. Ukraine's finance minister said that that progress is being made on a prospective minerals deal sought by the United States, but that it's unlikely to be finalized this week. So Trump's working on his minerals deal to help with the security in exchange for security for Ukraine. So Russia pretty much eradicated Ukraine out of Kursk. That was a pretty bad battle as well. There are no more Ukrainians in Kursk. And they've pushed Ukraine all the way back into Ukraine. So this little meeting that Zelensky had with the South African president, which his name's Cyril Ramaphosa, so he's kind of a pro-Russia president, the South African president. As you know, South Africa is part of BRICS. So, you naturally that would be kind of something. But the people in South Africa were not very happy with Ramaphosa meeting with Zelensky. They were protesting it out there, and they were holding up signs that said, "How dare you? Shame on you. Get Zelensky out of here." So South Africa does not want anything to do with Zelensky. So, it was probably good timing that he had to leave. He was getting protested on. Just to go on, Trump said that he said, "I'm not happy with the Russian strikes on Kiev. They weren't necessary, and it's very bad timing Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done. I think we're at that point. I think we're going to see something significantly happen here pretty soon. I think Ukraine's going to come up off of they're going to officially get rid of Crimea. It's going to be Russia. And then I think you're going to have to do a two-state country. Me personally, that's what I think. I think you're going to have the Eastern Ukraine is going to be their own entity, and then the Western Ukraine will be its own entity. I think that's the only way you're going to get around this. They'll still be part of Ukraine as a whole, but I think that we should just let the eastern part of the Ukraine govern itself. So I had somebody that I know from back home. He was like, well, what are we, pro-Putin now? No, we're not pro-Putin. However, if you're going to make statements like that, you have to stop looking at this little tiny little window of information that you're looking in, because there's more to this Russia-Ukraine war. There's more to the story than Putin invaded in 2022 and for no reason. Putin had lots of reasons to invade Ukraine, but a lot of people don't want to listen to that because it's our fault. It's America's fault that this happened. And it goes back to 2014. And this issue goes back way beyond that. But the significant parts of it started in 2014. Barack Obama set ops in to overthrow the pro-Russia president. And at that time, it was Viktor Yanukovych. He was very pro-Russia. Obama didn't like that because there's a lot of assets there in Ukraine that we wanted. And he wasn't willing to do business with Obama. So they started this overthrowing of the Ukrainian government, which is now that the proof of that is in Elon Musk Doge audits. Now we can go in and we look at the money, USAID and some of these other funds that Elon found. We were in fact funding the overthrow of governments. We're caught red-handed. Elon Musk has exposed it. We did it to Pakistan. We tried to do it to India. We did it to Ukraine, and on and on and on and on. Some of that money was in South Africa. Some of it was in Congo. We start uprisings. That's what the United States does. Some of that money went to Venezuela. We started uprisings in Venezuela. So this is a fact. This is a fact that this happened. It's no longer, well, it's a conspiracy theory. Obama never did that. Oh, it is a fact. Obama did do that. So what happened was they installed Petro Poroshenko. So Petro Poroshenko became president after the overthrow. So what happened was, which Poroshenko was losing the presidential race. So this happened during the presidential race. So what Poroshenko did was he sent troops to the eastern part of the Ukraine and attacked their own people. So this is a genocidal situation that Poroshenko is guilty of. That Americans don't understand this because we only listen to this much news. We only look into this much of the story, when in fact this Russia-Ukraine situation is this big. So this is something that I encourage all of you to look into. Don't just sit there and go, well, CNN said that Russia, bad guy, and Ukraine, poor Ukraine. That is absolutely not the situation. Ukraine started this. There's a reason why nobody wants to admit Ukraine into anything, because they're corrupt and it's just a bad government. There's a lot of corrupt politicians there. And Petro Poroshenko attacked his own people on the eastern part of Ukraine because they wanted to stay with the Russian alignment. And, 1,600 people were killed. Ukrainian people were killed by their own government. So that's a problem. That is a problem that us Americans, we don't fully understand what's going on because our media doesn't tell us that. Even Fox News doesn't tell you that. Even Newsmax doesn't tell you that. CNN, MSNBC, nobody talks about the real story because it points the finger right back at the United States because it's our fault that Ukraine's in this situation. And it's our fault that Putin had to come in and clean up our mess. That's exactly what happened. So then when Zelensky became president after Poroshenko, Zelensky did the same thing. He oppressed and attacked the eastern part of the Ukraine. So that's why this dude, I don't like him at all. He's a tyrant. He's a tyrant to his own people. And that's why Putin finally, when we had a weak enough president that he knew he could get away with it, he jumped in there and said, okay, now it's time for me to clean this up. And he did. And Biden did nothing but continue to give money to the pro-America installed president Zelensky. This is a very simple concept. Putin is not right to invade Ukraine. Putin is not right to randomly bomb civilian buildings. But Putin is not wrong in his assertion to why this is happening. Ukraine is wrong by attacking their own people, and nobody in the world wanted to do anything to stop it except Putin. So that tells you, where things are at. And now what we have is Trump met with Zelensky at the Pope's awakening or wake or whatever. I forget what they call it. But they sat down, and it's now in an infamous picture where Zelensky and Trump are sitting in the middle of one of these buildings in the Vatican. I think it was St. Peter's Basilica. Colin. Oh, hi, Jenny Lynn. Colin, I agree. I'm on board. We should have deployed Dolph Lundgren to solve this whole problem, because there's no better warrior in this world than Dolph Lundgren. Everybody knows that it's a fact. As a matter of fact, after Dolph Lundgren cleans out the Ukraine, they would just have to rename the country Lundgren land. It would be full of steroided up soldiers. You know, Dolph Lundgren's actually from Sweden. He's not even Russian. He's actually Swede. And he's like an astrophysicist. He has like a PhD in like astrophysicist, something like that. He's like rocket scientist smart, which makes sense. I mean, I think he's had cancer for like 25 years and it just can't kill him because it's Dolph Lundgren. But anyway, this whole thing with the Ukraine, it's going to come to a head. I think Putin's going to hit them hard enough to where they have to give up. This isn't going to be good. The ending's not going to be good. But Trump sat down with Zelensky, and I'm pretty sure the basic gist of the conversation was, you're going to have to come off of some land. And this is going to end. And we'll work out the details later, but Russia won't be invading anymore. And you're going to do business with the world. So I think that's where we're at on that. Next on the agenda, corrupt judges. So I've been whining and complaining, and I must say that. I was whining and complaining that Pam Bondi has not done anything. Like, she's not doing anything. Well, this week, she's been arresting judges. So Attorney Pam Bondi reacted Friday to the FBI's arrest of a Wisconsin judge for allegedly trying to shield an illegal immigrant from arrest, saying it showed no one, not even those in the black robe, are above the law. So Bondi arrested this judge in Wisconsin. Apparently what happened was ICE was there to detain this guy. And so the judge had them go back into the witness room and kind of sneak out. And then the dude got out. And so the ICE officers had to chase him down. Well, they got him. And he's going to be getting deported. But Bondi went on to say, no one's above the law in this country. Does that sound familiar? Did we not hear the liberals say that for the last 4 years on Donald Trump? Nobody's above the law. But now the liberals are going, can you see that this is a travesty? He's going against the judges. He's arresting judges. But nobody's against the law, remember? We ran it down our throats for 4 years. We remember. The North remembers. It doesn't make their ideologies don't make any sense. The left only applies rules to the things they want to apply them to. Makes no sense. She went on to say, if you're obstructing justice, when you have victims sitting in a courtroom of domestic violence, because that's what the dude was there for, battery, and you're escorting a criminal defendant out of a back door, it will not be tolerated. It is a crime in the United States of America. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to be prosecuted. I like Pam. Pam Bondi's been talking tough this week, and she's been backing it up. So I'm starting to back off of Pam Bondi. You're working your way up the ladder. We're going with, Tesla fire people. Now we're up to judges. What's next? I want to see Adam Schiff do the perp walk. And I want everybody to stand out and watch him and just point and laugh as soon as it happens. So this judge, Hannah Dugan, is the name of the judge. So Hannah's is arrested and is going to be facing a court of her peers, which she obviously knows how that works. She was charged with obstruction in official proceeding after evidence came to light that she had shielded the migrant from ICE agents, according to the criminal complaint that was filed on her. She was also charged with concealing an individual to prevent discovery and arrest. So she's going to look at it a little bit of time. She's done being a judge. That's over with. She's used her position to be corrupt. So she's done. So they asked Pam Bondi on America Reports about what the Trump administration would do to judges who thwart efforts to crack down on illegal immigration. Pam Bondi said, "We're going to prosecute you, and we're going to continue prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened, and we could not believe actually that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts." Scrolling in great depth. So they looked at the facts in great depth, and as soon as they heard it, she said, "You cannot obstruct a criminal case." And really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting her criminal defendant over victims of crime. That seems to be the liberal stance on all of this. They will fight for the sovereignty, it's a fake sovereignty of an illegal immigrant over a victim of a crime. That's not how our justice system is set up. The victims of the crime should have extra protections because they're the victim. Instead, we're going to stick up for the guy who's facing these charges that have no disposition yet. So the judge is automatically, she's showing bias by siding with this individual. Now, if he was standing in the courtroom and he just runs away, that's not on the judge. That's on him. But she aided and abetted this. So she's in some trouble, and she showed bias, and that should end her judicial career and her law career. She's probably going to lose her law license and everything else she has. Bondi went on to say, "I think some of these judges think they are beyond and above the law, and that they are not. We're sending a very strong message today," she said. "If you're harboring a fugitive, and we don't care who you are, if you're helping, hiding one, if you're giving a TDA, Tren de Aragua was TDA, if you're giving them guns, anyone who's illegal in this country, we will come after you, and we will prosecute you, and we will find you." So Pam Bondi's talking real tough. I like that. I like it when these people talk tough, because then if they back it up, it makes them kind of like, Wyatt Earp back in the days. So Doug Ender isn't the only judge to get hit with an arrest this week. So former New Mexico magistrate judge Joel Cano and his wife Nancy were taken into custody Thursday on charges of evidence tampering amid allegations they harbored Christian Ortega Lopez, an alleged illegal immigrant believed to be a member of Venezuela's notorious Tren de Aragua. Yeah. Judge Dredd. Yeah, Judge Dredd's not even going to. Judge Dredd would have shot at him. Judge Dredd don't play. That's why we have Colin come on the show, in the comment section, because he brings up all the greatest movies of all time. Anything with Dolph Lundgren in it or Sylvester Stallone, guys like that. Chuck Norris. We gotta pay our homages too. So Bondi's going after these people. This dude in New Mexico, that one was just as bad. He basically took this Tren de Aragua person in like a stray cat and just started feeding it and clothing it and petting it. And his daughter was taking care of him, and probably in more ways than one. They're giving him military grade firepower to pose with pictures in. Like, come on, man. So he's done. He's going to jail. So hopefully these judges will get their shit together and stop helping people that have been labeled as domestic or as terrorist organizations. These people need to get out of here. If you want due process to happen, you can't do due process when the judges are getting in the way of the due process. So we'll see how these all pan out. Now these judges are about to face some due process. Let's talk about the Pope. So as we know, the Pope has passed away. Now, I have taken a little bit of a dive into some of these candidates for Pope. So here's some of the leaders, some of the ones that could be considered. I mean, I'm sure there's always somebody I probably missed that will probably end up being the Pope, because I didn't have Pope Francis winning last time. He kind of came out of nowhere for me. But Peter Erdo, so he is an archbishop from Budapest, Hungary, which is where George Soros is from. Nobody likes George Soros. He's a conservative. He's the highest ranking Catholic leader in Hungary. He's a canon lawyer. They say he's very moderate, but he's a conservative moderate. They say he would be a good candidate because he does tend to listen to both sides. Then there's Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo. So he's from the Democratic Republic of Congo. He's very traditional. He's anti-same-sex relationships. However, he is very pro climate change. So he's extremely conservative on some things, but then he's got this climate change in there. Now, I'm not going to judge him on that. At first, when I first read it, I was like, oh my gosh, another progressive idiot. But then I started thinking about him like, you know what? Just because he wants to take care of the climate, it doesn't mean he's a progressive idiot. Because I started thinking about myself. I'm very pro-conservative. However, I don't want to see trash on my highways. I don't want to see smog in the airs. I want my earth to be pretty and clean. So I have to, kind of check myself sometimes when I see this, because it's automatically, every time I hear climate change, I automatically get mad, and I want to throw things at Greta Thunberg and make her cry. But after going through these guys, so this Cardinal Ambongo, he right now is he's my front runner. I like him. I read a lot about him. He is very, very traditional when it comes to certain things. So he's my favorite, and he would be the first black pope, I think. Yeah, he would be. So I know. I don't know. I don't understand. She wants to just make all this noise down here. She don't ever leave my side either, Colin. My dog's always down here below the desk, like moving around, itching and kicking stuff. She can't just sit down. Next on the list, Cardinal Mario Gretsch. So he's Secretary General for the Synod of Bishops. He's a canon lawyer. He's from the tiny little island called Malta. He's a progressive. Next, Cardinal Pietro Parolin. He's the Vatican's Secretary of State. He's a career diplomat. He's a progressive globalist. Absolutely not. One of the things they asked him what he's the most proud of, and I read this interview, he said that I've been able to keep the Vatican out of a lot of trouble. What the hell? That's not what I want you to do. I want you to get bad apples out of the Vatican. No, he's the cover-up guy. We'll just cover it up. We're the Vatican. God says I'm allowed to cover up whatever kind of immoral things we do. Look, I'm not a big fan of the things that happen in the Vatican. I support Catholicism, but I am not a big supporter of the Vatican. They've lost their way. Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa. Guess where he's from? So he is a patriarch of Jerusalem. He's 100% supporter of every Pope Francis policy. So in my eyes, he's out, because I didn't agree with anything Pope Francis did. Pope Francis was a very authoritarian pope. It was his way or the highway. Cardinal Luis Tagle of the Philippines. At first I was like, okay, this guy might be all right, but then I realized he's just another Pope Francis puppet. So some of the other progressives that are in the running: Cardinal Matteo Zuppi of Italy, Cardinal Anders Borealis of Sweden. He ain't no Dolph Lundgren, that's for sure. Colin, man, you're on it, man. I'm gonna tell you what, I miss working with you, Colin, because nothing gets by you. You've got something for everything. So Colin said, I'm voting for Dolph Lundgren because he played a priest in the movie Johnny Mnemonic. And it's true, he was a priest in Johnny Mnemonic. There we go. Dolph Lundgren for Pope. He's qualified. He was a priest in Johnny Mnemonic. He was an assassin priest too. He was stabbing. He had a knife inside his crucifix. He would pull it out and stab people with it. That was a great movie. I don't care what anybody says. Johnny Mnemonic was a great movie because it had all the great stars in it. Dolph Lundgren, Keanu Reeves, and Ice-T. So that's like a superstar lineup right there. Good job, Colin. So the Pope, I don't know who it's going to be. They're about to go into conclave and they're about to lock themselves in there. Nobody's going to come out. We're going to be watching videos of smoke come out of a smokestack. So we'll see what happens. Last thing I want to talk about today is a big thing from over the weekend. And I know a lot of you probably aren't going to care. It's kind of a non-political thing. Shedeur Sanders is the son of NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders. So as probably everyone on the planet knows, is nobody drafted him until the 5th round. He was predicted to be the number 1 quarterback in the draft. He should have went on the first day. They expected him to go in the first 5 picks of the draft, but he fell all the way back to the 5th round. Now, you've got like ESPN, guys like Stephen A. Smith, automatically trying to turn this into a race thing, or they're trying to compare it to Colin Kaepernick. Okay, so the difference is Shedeur never played in the NFL yet, so you can't even put him in the same category as Colin Kaepernick, because at least Kaepernick played a few years in the NFL and went to the playoffs, so he kind of had a leg to stand on a little bit, where Shedeur Sanders hasn't even stepped on a blade of grass in the NFL yet. So he went to the 5th round to the Browns, Cleveland. So he's going to Ohio. Have fun with that. So let's talk about the truth of Shedeur Sanders, because I am a football guru, self-proclaimed, of course, but I know a lot about football. I played it most of my life, followed it the rest of my life. For one, football is a team sport. Okay, people forget that, and people like Shedeur Sanders forgets that. That it's the game is more than you. It's more than your dad. It's more than your brother Shiloh. It's more than Travis Hunter. Two, Colorado's record while Shedeur Sanders was the starting quarterback was 13-12. So they're almost 500. That's not good for someone who's the best quarterback of the draft class. He's won 0 championships in anything. As a matter of fact, I went back and looked at their schedule. Shedeur Sanders has never beat a ranked team. Never. So how can you put him on that pedestal of the number one quarterback in the draft class when you have guys like Dylan Gabriel, who also got drafted to the Browns, the Oregon quarterback, who has a very good record. He's beat ranked opponents, including Ohio State. So how can you compare somebody who's never really accomplished anything, no championships, barely has a winning record, and you're going to throw him into he's the number one, and then on top of that, so he refused to be interviewed by any team outside of the top 5 because he thought for sure I'm going in the top 5. He thought for sure that he was going to go either to he thought he was going to the Browns. He ended up going to the Browns. He just went to the Browns like four rounds too late, which you might think, well, what's the big deal? For those of you who don't know about football, round 1, your contract is usually in the tens of millions of dollars, where if you get picked in round 5, now you're looking at league rookie minimum. So, and they're not going to give that to Shedeur Sanders. He's probably going to make one point something million a year, where if he would have went round 1, he'd make 10 million a year. So that's the difference between where he thought he was going to go and where he went. It's millions of dollars. So just so everybody understands that. But he refused to be interviewed. And that was a slap to the face to a lot of other teams, because that's how arrogant he went into the combine, the NFL combine. For those of you who don't know, it's not like it's not where they run over a bunch of dudes with a giant combine. It's like a testing day where they test them in several different ways. They, how strong are you? How fast are you? How high can you jump? Stuff like that. So he tested where, he did okay. One thing, they watched film on him. His footwork is sketchy. He's a work in progress. So everybody needs to understand that. He did not run a pro-style offense at Colorado. That was another thing a lot of scouts didn't like. He's not equipped to handle a pro-style offense, which is what most professional football teams run. And he did not perform well in the interviews that he had. Most of the scouts said that he's way too into himself and he wants the whole program to change for him. So he's a very him kind of person. Now, for the Browns, this makes a ton of sense because Deshaun Watson, they paid way. He's the biggest free agent signing flop in history, and the Browns are still paying him. He's still with the Browns, but it was like a $250 million contract with this guy. And he hasn't even come close to fulfilling that. So most of the time he's been hurt, and Joe Flacco played, and now they picked up Kenny Pickett. So those three, Joe Flacco's like 95 years old. So you got Watson, who's hurt all the time, Flacco, who's 95 years old. You got Kenny Pickett, who just sucks. Then they drafted the Oregon quarterback I talked about, Dylan Gabriel, and then Shedeur Sanders. So if you're Shedeur Sanders, you can look at this one of two ways. You could be a big crybaby and go, whoa, they're racist. The NFL's racist. Or you can look at it and go, hey, I'm in a good situation to where I can show my worth. There's no major quarterback that's ahead of me right now. I can go in there and I can work hard, show that I belong in the NFL, prove all these naysayers wrong, and work your way into the starting lineup. That's what you're supposed to do. There's no hand you the keys to anything. Hell, Brett Favre did not start his first year in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers did not start his first year in the NFL. And look at both of those guys turn into Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders should be fortunate that he is in a situation where if he works hard enough, he could have playing time this year. Yeah, it looks like it's a crowded quarterback room. Dylan Gabriel, I'm going to keep it real with everybody. He's too short. He's got the Troy Smith syndrome. He's too short to play quarterback in the NFL. He's not going to be able to see over his linemen. That's going to be a problem. And he's not going to be able to run around like he did in college because somebody's going to knock his head off. Kenny Pickett, don't have it. He's an interception throwing machine, indecisive. Flacco, I'd be surprised if he can throw more than 20 passes a game. Deshaun Watson, who knows? You don't know. Is he going to be healthy? Is he not going to be healthy? I don't trust him. So Shedeur Sanders has a chance. So instead of sitting here saying how unfair it is for Shedeur Sanders to poor guy went to the 5th round, let's see what he does with adversity, because he's going to get more out of this than he ever will going in the 1st round. He's going to be humbled. And you saw it when they finally did draft him. They showed it. He did a humble thing and he got excited. He was happy he got drafted by the Browns, whether it was real or not. He showed some humility. So now he's the underdog. I'm an underdog. I root for the underdog. So I hope he shows everybody wrong. But it's going to be hard to tell. Plus, the problem that comes with Shedeur Sanders is every single day he's going to have his dad on the phone with Cleveland Browns coaches, Cleveland Browns administrators, trying to tell them how to coach this kid. And that's going to be a problem. I wouldn't put up with it. I would have passed on Shedeur Sanders just simply because I don't want to deal with Deion Sanders. So there you go. Now, it's good for the Browns because they are notorious for making bad quarterback decisions. So they went and they drafted 2 quarterbacks in the draft. They said, well, I got 5 quarterbacks. Maybe one of them pans out. So we'll see what happens. So one of these guys has to be decent, you would think. I mean, the Browns went all out on Johnny Manziel. They went all out on Deshaun Watson. Hell, they had RG3 for a little bit. They've had Colt McCoy. They've had all these guys who are very polished quarterbacks, but they just couldn't get it together. You know, Flacco, he's a Super Bowl champion. So we'll see what happens. The Browns they're going to find a way to suck. They do it. They do it no matter what. And they don't have Nick Chubb anymore, but they did pick up Quinshon Judkins, which from Ohio State. So we'll see what happens. But that's pretty much my show for the day. And everybody be safe out there. This Russia thing's about to be over here pretty soon, I'm pretty sure. So watch out for crazy protesters. Watch out for these loony liberals. I'm out. Peace.